Hello from Kansas City. Sorry I couldn't be there tonight. I'd love to be enjoying some mbuzi, ugali, and hopefully some chapati and mandazi with you all. My name's Scott Halverson. My Kenyan friends call me Mzungu Mrefu. And I've been friends with Dennis since 2006. So we're closing in on 20 years of friendship. We met in pharmacy school and graduated together in 2011. And in that time, we shared lots of goat, rice, and laughs as we learned each other's Minnesotan and Kenyan cultures. In 2018, we started the Sticks to Bricks campaign with the goal of turning the Children's Youth Center from a stick hut into a 3,200 square foot concrete building. So now friends and family from our community stepped up. They gave clothing, toys, books, and enough finances to build the youth center. Dennis worked virtually with the Fundi, the contractor, to build our building. And it was fun to see pictures streaming back as they built it. And one of the best parts of that all was the jobs that was created for some of the men and the boys in the community. There was a micro economy that grew around this project. Then in 2019, Dennis and I traveled to his hometown in Kitui, Kenya, to celebrate the church youth center opening. It was my first time traveling to Africa, and it was such an amazing experience. We didn't have any time to sightsee or safari, so we spent our 11 days meeting the local people and seeing the conditions of the villages, churches, families, and farms. So one of the things that stood out to me as an American was seeing these under construction cinder block buildings. You couldn't tell if they were new construction going up or old being torn down. Most were actually new buildings under construction. And when you pass through a small town, it's the opposite of what's happening in America. The small towns here are fading away and population is dropping. But in Kenya, the small town population is bursting at the seams. And as you drive down the gravel roads, you'll see people walking everywhere. Kids seem to be coming out of the woodwork. In the village of Yanombe, which is like a suburb to another small village, Kanyangi. It was so tiny. It didn't even seem like a town. But over the past few years, it has really blossomed and our youth center is now filled up. So when we were there, Dennis took me to his elementary and middle school where he grew up, sat by the goats while he did math outside, and probably took a few paddle swats when he was talking too much. But one story I'd like to share. When we arrived, Dennis's teenage nephew, Denu, pulled out some soccer balls that we had brought, but we forgot to bring an air pump. But that was not a hindrance. He demonstrated the resourcefulness that you see in so many of the kids and a bright problem-solving ability by opening up a pen, emptying out the ink straw, and inflating the ball. Quick thinking and resourcefulness and industriousness in the kids. So that was also demonstrated when we cut the goat that we had for lunch. The young kids, even 3 and 4 years old, were on top of cleaning the intestines. They had water and they had these large straws to blow out and clean out the intestines, which, by the way, was probably my favorite food, matumbo. Now, juxtapose that youthful resourcefulness against an economy that doesn't have much for jobs and has limited schools. So you start to see the effects in the adult population. Many of the men who have not moved on to doing engineering or science in the big city end up drinking. So I believe in Dennis's vision to educate and train these kids in STEM to provide all kinds of opportunity for them right in their own community. So just look at what a borehole and a water tower that Dennis invested in has done for their community. All kinds of crops and livestock and subsequent new jobs that were just never there before. So here's an example of how I could see this play out. I don't know if anyone in this room has taken up the hobby of 3D printing, but I've gone all in the last 6 months, and I can just picture one 3D printer for $1,000 with kids who are trained on it. It will be printing irrigation parts, motor vehicle parts, farming equipment, building parts, house goods, recreational parts, and in multiple materials. And they could print these pieces same day for pennies on the dollar. But the foundation of this is math, science, and technology education. So if you've watched Dennis over the last 20 years, like I have, I used to tease him that his eyes were always red. And as I got to know him, I realized it was because he was always up all night talking to the Kenya kids and investing in his property, investing his property there with his heart being for that community. And I believe the transformation we see in those kids will look a lot like Dennis's story. They'll take their education, they'll benefit economically from it, and they'll improve their community with it. So one of the most rewarding things about doing a friend and family project like this is the direct impact that we saw. With around $25,000, we were able to build a 3,200 square foot youth center that has been continually maintained and improved upon from the day I stood there looking at the last piece of red sheet metal going up on the roof while the roofers who were barefoot while constructing it were putting that on. So in the US, it's hard to make $25,000 go anywhere. But on a project like this, your dollars will see great impact. But most of all, I hope you all have the chance to go to Kitui someday. It was one of the best experiences of my life that I'll never forget, and I hope to go back with my wife and kids very soon. Thank you.